Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Folks, another week and more movies to review and dig into. It is I, your friendly neighborhood moviegoer, John L., back at it again with some more food for thought on some films that are currently out on theaters, or in theaters, should I say. This particular recording, we're going to dig into a film that seems to be doing pretty well at the box office for the genre that it's in. Also, it being January, and that there's not much big time tentpole movie fare out there right now. This one we're going to talk about today is M3gan. Now, for you guys who've been listening to me for a while, know that I am not big on horror. And horror movies are not my cup of tea. You ask yourselves, well, he just must be one of those guys who's afraid to say he's scared of scary movies or horror movies. No, folks. I am a child of the 80s and the 90s, where horror films, slasher films, and suspense thrillers were all the craze. And we were inundated with them for 2 decades straight. And a lot of the time, these movies became very formulaic. And for a person like myself, who watches a lot of different types of films, they became very predictable outside of or whatever level of gore and hatchetry could happen in a horror film. So with all that being said, I actually liked M3gan. Not gonna lie. I thought it a very interesting concept. It was it was a horror film, lightly, I would say. Like, you had, I would say, probably less than 10 minutes of kills in a movie that was about an hour and 45 minutes long. Let me just double check the runtime. An hour 42. Right? The movie came out on January 6, 2023. It was a Blumhouse Universal release. And this particular film, it was cool, man. The reason as to why I say it was cool is because it deals a lot with what happens with parenting in today's society. It talks about screen time with kids. It talks about I'll use this phrase for lack of a better term, but it also talks about the insular perspective of how kids are raised nowadays, due to the fact of all the screen time and things of that nature, and how there are large percentages of children who do not play outside or do things recreationally outside of the home. which delves into different conversations and different things and the whys and the why nots behind it. But this is not for that. The film touches on that. The film also touches on how technology is such a crutch, not just for children, but adults as well, and what it's been doing and what it is doing to society at large nowadays. And even though this movie, obviously, you know, it's fictional, right? But for all intents and purposes, outside of like the murderous killer robot, like the things in this movie can really happen based on the kind of technology that exists today. So let me give you guys the synopsis of the movie. M3gan is a marvel of artificial intelligence, a lifelike doll programmed to be a child's greatest companion and a parent's greatest ally. To coincide with that particular statement, there was a part of the movie where they were talking to one of the protagonists, who was played by Allison Williams. She played a character called Gemma. Gemma ends up being the caretaker of her younger niece, who was in a car accident which caused the lives of her parents. Gemma is the creator of this M3gan, and she works for this large toy firm, which kind of took me out of the movie at the beginning, because I think for like about the first 5 to 7 minutes, we were subject to toy commercials and the construct of this toy company. Obviously, it had its point, and it served its purpose for what would happen later on in the film. But Gemma, she had been working on M3gan for quite some time. Then obviously, movie magic, she hits a breakthrough, and she's able to create a version of M3gan that would be ready for manufacture. And to say that these kinds of things happen in the real world, it's true, with different companies making not just robotics, but the artificial intelligence. I know a lot of what's been going on the socials and in the news nowadays has been surrounding ChatGPT. These are conversations that me and my brothers and my close friends have been having in recent months, and how it works, the pros and the cons, what it could mean in the future, and things of that nature. And funnily enough, or ironically, you find this conversation from a macro perspective happening in this movie. Just because M3gan can learn not just from the child that she's synced to, but also the environment that she lives in and that surrounds her. And that's the scariest part of the movie, I think. How this artificial intelligence is able to gather all this information so quickly, adapt it, and then use it in order to manipulate its surroundings. Now, obviously, computers and processors manipulate information at unreal speeds and unimaginable levels of computation. So that being the scariest part, and M3gan having her mission statement, which is to make sure that she protects this 8-year-old girl who has just gone through this tragedy, and she is to let no harm, physically, mentally, or emotionally, come to this girl. Her name is Cady, played by McGraw, and in the sense of it becoming the child's greatest companion, like once M3gan is linked to Cady, Cady doesn't want to let her go at all because she feels like M3gan understands her and she's always listening and things of that nature. And the parent's greatest ally part is more to the effect of it correlates to the whole screen time dynamic, because people feel, or some folks, right, can't single out anybody, some folks, they hand their kids tablets, put them in front of a TV screen or phones, and their kids are on those things all day. And M3gan, the doll, is around Cady all the time. So while Gemma was so busy trying to prepare for this launch of M3gan as a product, she's letting M3gan be the parent, not just an ally, but the parent, because in all actuality, Gemma wasn't prepared to be a parent. You know, the situation was just thrust upon her due to unfortunate circumstances. So, with the rest of the synopsis, M3gan was designed by a brilliant toy company, Robotics, Gemma. M3gan can listen and watch and learn as she becomes friend and teacher, playmate, and protector for the child she is bonded to. When Gemma suddenly becomes the caretaker of her orphaned 8-year-old niece, Cady, Gemma's unsure and unprepared to be a parent. Under intense pressure at work, Gemma decides to pair her M3gan prototype to Cady in an attempt to resolve both problems, a decision that will have unimaginable consequences. Now, back to my point of why I don't watch much horror, and the formulaic part, the predictability part. Like when we got to the part about, oh, wait a minute, her aunt is this designer of M3gan, I already know what's going to happen before it even happened. And that's the part that kind of sucks for me when it comes to horror movies, because they're plot devices, right? And I was like, oh God, it's her aunt. She creates this bot. There's going to be some sort of a plot device used where M3gan gets control of her own AI due to a loophole. That was my thought process. I was absolutely right. The loophole was Gemma didn't create any parameters in order to block M3gan from doing anything extreme. She just didn't make the time to program any of that. So, due to that fact, chaos starts to ensue. Now, obviously, it trickles down into the movie. It doesn't hit you in hyperspeed. Like, it's a good build. I thought that the pairing between M3gan and Cady was very intense at some parts. because of the, lack of a better term, call them tantrums that Cady would throw, or that she would have, should I say, when M3gan wasn't around. There was a part in the movie where Gemma decided to shut M3gan off because she was worried that she was doing all these bad things, but she couldn't prove it at the time. And Cady hit Gemma. And I'm there like, all right, this is a bit extreme. Not to say that it wouldn't happen in a relatively similar situation due to whatever trauma the girl was going through due to her parents' deaths. But I'm there like, well, this was bound to happen. Okay, up next. But the reason as to why I like the movie is because it was done in such a way that even though it was predictable to me, I thought it was super creative, being that it was using today's technology and social discourse around parenting and how to control technology within the home and in a given space around children. You know, I thought that was the most creative part of the movie. The kills weren't very creative to me. They just seemed apt for movie horror. The one kill that I want to say got me the most was when, spoiler folks, sorry, I got to go into spoilers here because this is where I found it creative, but yet it was a hole in the plot, right? Or maybe. Listen out. So she kills this older lady who's the next door neighbor of Gemma in the house that they live in. The older lady was presented to us earlier in the movie when they had to move Cady into the house. She had like a, I wouldn't call it a rabid dog, but like she had a wild dog. The dog ended up biting Cady at one point due to some actions that M3gan was trying to take against the dog. And then once the dog bit Cady, that's when M3gan went overboard and she started to become the killer doll robot because she killed the dog. And after killing the dog, she did something, M3gan that is, in the movie that I don't care who you are on this planet, anywhere. There's a part of the movie where Gemma tried to take Cady to an alternative kind of a learning camp so she can socialize with other kids and not have to be around M3gan all the time. So that eventually happened. She got around other kids, and there was this one dirtbag kid. Like, that kid played his role to the T. And he mistreated Cady. He knew that Cady brought M3gan, and M3gan was amongst all the other toys that the kids had brought that they left in this separated section in the outdoor area. He ended up taking M3gan, and in a very weird way, which I thought was I thought it was a little off-putting. Cady was said to be an 8-year-old girl. This kid, the fucker kid, he was in his teens. But according to the plot in the movie, the mother of this kid was there. She was having a conversation with Gemma. said that the kid has some sort of a growth spurt or whatever. BS, but we'll go with that. Anyways, the part that was off-putting was that when the kid took M3gan after like leading Cady astray in the forest, when he took M3gan, the reason as to why I found it off-putting was because, one, it's a doll, and then two, the way that they set up the scene, it was like the kid was about to I guess I'm inferring a bit much. Maybe it's my mind. But the way they made it seem, that kid was about to do some really sexually suggestive things to this doll. In like a bad way. And obviously M3gan didn't let that happen. But you know, the kid was a dick anyways. He talked bad to his mother. He was mistreating Cady. Obviously M3gan knew what was going on because she was recording everything that was going on in the area and what the kid was doing. Once the kid was trying to take advantage of M3gan and M3gan knew that nobody was around, M3gan started to go to work. And eventually, even though she didn't push him onto the road, like the kid was just trying to run away from M3gan, he ended up rolling off a hill onto an active road and got hit by a car and killed. The reason as to why I said what I said earlier in a very hyped voice, anyone who's ever gone through an episode with one of those dick kids that you know you've run into, or if you're listening to this, you were one of those dick kids that everybody hated and wanted to hit and people just wanted you to die. Like that moment, regardless of it, there was like a catharsis in that moment for a lot of people who have ever dealt with that sort of a situation. It's a fictitious thing. It's fictional. So that's why they were able to get it out on screen. But to think that those type of thoughts have never gone through children's heads before when they've had to deal with bullying or people mistreating them and things of that nature, you're not human. And you don't really feel. Not to say that death is correct or causing harm to somebody is right. Obviously it's not. But the movie did what no one else in real life can do. And that's why I said it was like sort of a point of catharsis, but it also moved the storyline along because now this is M3gan's second kill. She's in the deep end now. And then I will mention the other kills or whatever the case is. But dude, her ability to use that artificial intelligence not only to just learn her environment, but she synced to all the other gadgets in Gemma's home, which left us with much of a cliffhanger at the end of the movie. Spoiler, non-spoiler, more news than anything else. They're moving along to make a M3gan sequel. We will probably see the M3gan sequel in 2025. The writer, Akela Cooper, and she's coming back to write. We don't know if the director, Gerard Johnstone, will be back to direct. But obviously this will be a Blumhouse Pictures film for the sequel. So M3gan will be back eventually. But I thought that it was uniquely of today's world, and it had some interesting commentary on parenting, our reliance on technology, how people feel and how people would deal with certain circumstances. I really wish I could but this doll can do it, but the real person can't type deal, and that's why I found the movie gratifying in a sense. Because it's like, yeah, I can see this in a movie. I'll never do this shit in real life. I ain't trying to go to jail for nobody. I ain't finna kill nobody. But this doll, she's getting out what half the world's been thinking, trying to protect this little girl. And at the end of it all flips on its head because Gemma finally realizes M3gan gone crazy. She out here killing people. She trying to shut her down. And then M3gan flips the script on Gemma, trying to kill Gemma. And Cady got to come in for the save by the end of the movie. Because she knows that her real caretaker, the human caretaker, is not going to harm her or anyone around her. And because the human themselves have parameters, borders, lines they won't cross, unlike this robot who wasn't coded or programmed to have such lines or barriers that they could or could not cross. So anyways, folks, that's my take on M3gan. Would I recommend? I would. I think it's a fun film. It's more suspense thriller than it is horror. Like I said, there's probably, in an hour and 42-minute film, there's probably 10 minutes worth of kills in it. So it's more the building of the suspense and the thrills. Not too many jump scares, maybe like 2 or 3 for the effect. I wouldn't say that it happened to me, but I knew when the movements were. So look out for those if you go and watch. To give you the roundabout, the Rotten Tomatoes layout here. As of right now, it is certified fresh, 272 critics at a 94%. And the audience score, with more than 2,500 verified audience rating of 79%. So this one shows the critics love M3gan much more than the audience did. But like I said, fun little film. Not a complete Chucky ripoff or anything like that. Good use of today's technology and how kids in this day and age are interacting and what their social skills are like. So, from a macro perspective. So I'm not trying to say that all kids are like that. It's just, you can imagine that something like this can take place. So I'll leave y'all with that. My thoughts of M3gan. Go out and watch it when you get a chance. Anyways, folks, as always, I appreciate you all for listening, taking your time out, and listening to your friendly neighborhood moviegoer. As I'll be back with some more in another recording about another film. Until next time, folks, be safe, stay well, and keep doing your best. This is John L. signing off. Until next time.